Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the new horror mystery film written and directed by Zach Cregger, Weapons. This is his follow up to Barbarian, which came out, what, 2, maybe 3 years ago, and it was one of my favorite movies of that year that it was released. I loved that film. It kind of came out of nowhere with me, but all eyes were on Weapons. I was super anticipating this film. It stars Julia Garner, who is having quite a year. Um, she started off the year with Wolfman. Later on, we seen her just a couple of weeks ago, actually, with Fantastic Four: First Steps, and now we get Weapons. Along with her, we have Josh Brolin, also Aaron Egright, Benedict Wong, Amy Madigan. The premise of Weapons, it follows the mysterious case of 17 children from the same classroom who mysteriously run away on the same night, having been apparently abducted by an unseen force. This is an awesome movie. There's no point dragging it out. This movie is one of the best films of the year, hands down. Definitely one of the best horror films I've seen in a couple of years, and that's saying a lot because 2024 in particular was a really good year in horror. And this isn't your conventional horror film where we have a slasher or a boogeyman in the closet or under the bed, but it is and to its core, a horror film, and very smartly done. Zach Cregger, who, as I said before, he gave us Barbarian, but he's known from his little stint in comedy. You know, he was a part of that sketch group, The Whitest Kids, you know. I think that was on, I forgot what channel that used to come on, but I used to watch it. It was pretty funny. And then he did not a show, but a movie called Miss March. that, that came out, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Could be longer. I don't remember. But it was funny. I do remember it was funny. And now he dipped his toe into comedy, and he is joining Jordan Peele as a comedic actor or a comedian who has dipped their toe into horror and is knocking it out of the park. Jordan Peele giving us such films as Nope and Get Out, you know, and Us, with these social commentaries wrapped up in horror. A new way to see horror films. I think Zach Cregger is kind of doing that as well. If you go back to Barbarian and along with Weapons, it's not your typical horror, but it is definitely a horror film. This movie has jump scares that actually work, and there's only a couple of them. You know, they're not overdone with jump scares, but they're earned jump scares. Even if you don't jump, they're earned because Zach Cregger does a great job of building the tension in certain scenes or moments. And when the little jump happens, you're like, oh, at least it got me. And it's hard for me to jump scare in movies, you know, but I actually jumped in a couple of times in this film. Good job on him, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Uh, the acting here, I mean, this is an all-star cast. I don't know how they got this level of talent to be a part of this film, but good on them for it. And it just made the film that much better. You know, Josh Brolin, Thanos himself, in a role. I believe, if memory serves, when they were developing this and casting this movie, I think initially Pedro Pascal was cast in that role. I could be wrong, but I believe he was cast, but he had to drop out because of Fantastic Four. He was filming Fantastic Four and wasn't able to do this, even though Julia Garner, who was in Fantastic Four, was able to do this. Of course, her role isn't that big in Fantastic Four, spoiler, but she found she found a way to do both. But I get it, you know. Pedro had to concentrate on that, but if we didn't get Pedro, cool. Josh Brolin is, I mean, a heck of a second choice, you know, a heck of a backup plan to go with Josh Brolin. I enjoyed him in his film. He's one of the parents of the missing children, and I love how they played this role, or he played this role. Isn't the manic, crazed parent just, you know, accusing everybody and all this, and he actually was calculated in how he would search for his missing child. And I really put myself in his shoes. You know, God forbid, knock on wood, that it never happens, even though my children are older now. But I can't imagine myself in this position. But if I was, I would like to think I would be Josh Brolin's character in real life. You know, it's being calm, cool, and going through the facts, you know, seeping through the evidence and trying to find what happened to my children, my child, along with the other children. Great job on them. And that's another added point to this film. This film is a mystery. This film is a whodunit, and it's mixed up in this horror, and it plays out so well. We have Julia Garner, who plays the teacher at this school, in particular this class where all of the children came up missing. Her class consists of 18 children, and 17 of them disappeared. Only one didn't, and it was just out of that class. So naturally, you're like, okay, it was her. You know, is something screwy there? Why just her class? And these are questions that were asked and addressed in the film. And we find out that she isn't a Girl Scout here. You know, she has a history of sketchy behavior in her past. So it makes you question her and her motives, and especially with certain things or certain relationships that happen in the film that she has. Like, okay, she isn't 100% innocent here, you know. And so you question her throughout the entirety of the film, and Julia Garner does an excellent job here at playing both sides, kind of, you know, making you question what's her motives. Is she really on the up and up here, or is she just an innocent victim of this crime or mystery or abduction or whatever it was that took place in this movie? Loved her performance. Everybody else was great. Alden Ehrenreich had a great role here. You know, I would say small, but it's not small. But he isn't the main character, but I loved his character. You know, I love what he brought to this film. But the MVP of this movie is somebody I didn't even know that she was in the movie, and that was Amy Madigan. She plays the aunt of the one child who didn't go missing, and her performance in this movie, my God. And I've been watching her for years. You know, I've been watching, you know, Field of Dreams and so on and so. She is a fantastic actress. But this role here made me sit there and be like, wow, man, where has she been all these years? Because I haven't seen her in much recently. I mean, she is awesome in this role. Everybody knocked it out the park. There wasn't one weak performance throughout this film. Not one. And especially, I know I gave the MVP to Amy Madigan, but the real MVP of this movie, the best performance, hands down, if I got to go pound for pound, would have to be for Christopher, who plays the child that was left behind, the only child that didn't get abducted. His performance, because he had a lot to do, this kid, and I believe this is his first movie, his first anything. He had a lot to do, and he did it well. I was like, bruh, I can't wait to see you do more. I was so impressed, because he could have gave this typical child performance that we see in a lot of films, not just horror or whatever, but, you know, the bland, look like they're reading off a cue card type performance. No, we didn't get that. He really didn't have much dialogue, so he had to emote, you know, and bruh, he did a fantastic job. Super impressed with him. The horror elements of this movie was really horrible, and it's not your typical horror. It's not bloody gore. You know, it gets bloody. When it gets bloody, it gets bloody. For the scenes that call for the blood, it is there, and it is there in gallons. So it's there, but it's not overly done. It's not just for shock value sake. You know, it's there for a reason. But it's not too many times. It's done tastefully, if that's the proper adjective to use when we're dealing with blood and gore. But it's there, but it's done in a decent manner. The real horror is the trueness of it all, is the reality of it all, and that's the children. It's the children just vanishing, just being abducted out of nowhere, no trace, no sign, no nothing. We can't. That is horrifying for any parent. That is horrifying for anybody. You know, even if you don't have children, that's a horrifying thought that kids just got up one night at 2:17 and vanished, just walked out the door, poof, all at once, like it was coordinated. It's the freakiest thing ever. But just your child coming missing, I can't fathom that, and it scares me even now. Like I said, my kids are in their 20s now, and it still scares me to death. You know, I need to know where they are. But so that's the real horror, and the movie doesn't skimp on that. It's a real fast-paced type of film to a degree. Even though this movie is a little over 2 hours, you really get through this story. You know, it's not drug out. We don't go months, you know, trying to search for these kids and whatnot. This is a pretty contained film in terms of time. You know, time that passes. I actually enjoyed that. Now, the one thing that I do knock about this movie, and it's one, I mean, nitpick. And it's not even affecting the score, but I gotta say it because being honest reviewer here, in the third act, it kind of slows a little bit, just a notch or two. It kind of drags in that third act, and I know why, because we were kind of flushing out the story right there. We were wrapping up the story, you know, but I felt they could have picked up the pace just a tad, because from that point where it slows up, we were moving. I mean, the adrenaline was pumping at that point, and it kind of just hit the pause button. It didn't go a complete stop, but it kind of paused and crawled to the big crescendo at the end. But that was my only thing. Now, everything that was in that slow period was interesting. The acting was great. The direction was great. So that's why it's hard for me to really nitpick. But I was in hyper mode, and they kind of gave me a sedative right there. That I just wanted to keep the pumper pumping, but it's all good. Overall, this was an amazing film. Super enjoyed it, and I will highly recommend Weapons, which gets a letter grade of an A. Yeah, this was an awesome movie. That's what the A stands for, apparently. This was awesome, man. And kudos to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers killed it this year, huh? And we're only in August. I don't know what else they got on the plate, you know, for the remainder of 2025. But, bro, they've been banging it out. I mean, you had Sinners from Warner Brothers. You had Minecraft from Warner Brothers. Superman from Warner Brothers. And now you have Weapons out. Yeah, I see y'all over there, Warner Brothers. Good job. Good job on you. I would like to know, did you check out Weapons? Did you enjoy it? Do you understand what Weapons mean? Why is it entitled Weapons? I went into this and had no idea why is this movie called Weapons? But you have to see the movie to know why it's called. Halfway through it finally dawned on me why, and I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That is so cool. And so I would love to know, did you enjoy Weapons? Do you plan to check out Weapons? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of the new horror film Weapons. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.